Well, thankfully I'll be in business for a long time because there are so many great 80s slashers out there. I just discovered a new one called The Initiation. We're gonna review it. Let's do this. The Initiation stars Daphne Zuniga, Vera Miles, Clu Gulager, and is directed by Larry Stewart, as well as Peter Crane. What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new slasher review. These are my favorite types of reviews. I love reviewing 80s slashers. There's just something about them. And I've talked about that quite a few times in the past. But we're going to talk about a movie called The Initiation. It's a movie I think I discovered on Killer Flicks, actually. And I was curious to watch it. I know Daphne Zuniga was in it. This was her first movie. And you might remember her from like Spaceballs. She was also on Melrose Place. But this is one of those like sorority girl horror movies. Kind of like House on Sorority Row. But the premise of this one is, quick plot synopsis. You have these new sorority girls and they have this initiation that they have to do. And the initiation is that they have to break into the Fairchild, which is this building that Daphne Zuniga's character, Kelly, works at. And so she has to get them in there, and they have to get the security guard who has the hairiest chest in Texas. They have to strip him down and steal his uniform. But in the meantime, of course, there are these killings that are going on. Because at the beginning we see a young Kelly. She's going down this hallway, and she sees her mother and father, played by Vera Miles and Clu Gulager, having sex. And then all of a sudden, she stabs her father in the leg. And this other man comes in with a suit, and he catches on fire. Keep in mind, this is a dream, people, okay? So anything can happen in a dream. It's crazy. And what we know about Kelly is that when she was 9 years old, she fell out of a tree, and she had amnesia. These slasher plots get really deep sometimes, don't they? But that does play into the finale of the movie. By the way, this will be a spoiler review because this is a movie from the 80s. So if you haven't seen The Initiation, I would probably turn this off and veer away. I said veer away like Vera Miles. Because I definitely want to talk about some spoilers. Really, the only spoiler is the ending. You know, this has one of those big twist endings. Really reminded me of the greats like Happy Birthday to Me. I think Happy Birthday to Me has one of the best slasher endings. Even though it's completely bonkers, I like that in a slasher movie, you know? But The Initiation is interesting because this was one of those slashers that was filmed in Texas. There's not too many of them filmed in Texas, I don't think. But originally, Peter Crane was going to direct this thing. And he directed a portion of the movie, but the problem was he was a very talented director, but his time management skills really sucked. And so he got like 3 days worth of footage on day 10 or something like that. And so eventually they had to fire the guy, and then they hired Larry Stewart. So if you watch this movie, if it looks a little disjointed to you, that's because the more artistically directed scenes, those are Peter Crane. You know, he's a more talented director, but he takes his time.
Delta Rho Chi, never will die. Delta Rho Chi, never will die.
And then Larry Stewart has a background in TV. He's just a TV director. You know, he blocks his scenes just like you would see on 80s television. You know, so some of this movie does look like, you know, like an 80s television show. And then some of it does look very cinematic. Those are the Peter Crane scenes.
Now, I know what you're gonna say.
Fuck you!
Hadn't thought of that.
Now, in slasher movies, we want attractive people and then we want nice kills. This movie has both of those, actually. Daphne Zuniga leads this thing, and for a first movie, I think she does a very serviceable job, actually. We'll get into that ending in a minute. I think that's where I started having problems with a little bit of her performance. Actually, in the middle, when she's having her nightmares, there's one part where she kind of channels somebody else.
Where are you now, Kelly?
Mommy's room. That man. That man again. Make him stop. Make him stop.
And the acting was a little bit weird in that scene. Not enough to like take me out of the movie or anything, but it was just kind of strange. Now, probably one of my favorite sorority girls in this for obvious reasons is Allison. I did some research, and Allison actually is Hunter Tylo, who became, I think she was like a reality TV star or something like that in the 90s. I remember some news about her in the 90s, but I didn't know that she got her start in like a slasher movie. And, you know, as far as like, you know, I guess as CP would say, the tits and hits, she happily fills that category. And, you know, she's eye candy, let's face it. Very attractive woman.
Marcia, don't knock it till you've tried it.
Also, there's this professor that works with Kelly to try to tap into her psyche and find out what these nightmares mean. And eventually, he ends up hooking up with Kelly, you know, one of those teacher-student relationships. And this movie kind of glosses over it like it's no big deal whatsoever, which is kind of funny. And then you got to mention Vera Miles from Psycho and Psycho 2. Her story is interesting in this actually because she didn't want to do this movie at all. The only reason she did this movie was because of Peter Crane. But then Peter Crane was fired, but she was contractually obligated. So by the time she started working, Peter Crane was already gone. She still does a good performance. You know, she's a veteran actor. She's gonna turn it on and do a good job. Clu Gulager as well. You might remember him from Return of the Living Dead. He's in this. Now let's get into the twist portion of the movie. I guess this is like if you've stayed this far, this is where we're jumping into spoilers. Okay, so the big spoiler in this movie, or the big twist, is that Clu Gulager, who plays Dwight, wasn't actually Kelly's father. So in that dream, he was having an affair with her mother. And the real father was this guy named Jason Randall. That's the guy that was in the suit in the dream. So Jason Randall ends up burning to death, and it pretty much makes him an invalid, and he ends up working as a gardener. That big freaking twist at the end of this movie is that there is a twin involved. Which is always silly, you know. I think it's weird when you bring a twin into the mix at the end. But you know what? To give him credit, I didn't see it coming at all. I was like, what the hell? I could have sworn it was going to be Jason Randall doing the killings, but no. So here you got Daphne Zuniga coming in and just giving this really like bonkers portrayal of her twin sister. And she had been in the mental ward this whole time, and so she breaks out, and then she goes and kills Dwight, and then eventually finds her way to the Fairchild, the big building. And that scene is kind of silly too, because when they're doing the big chase, when you're running from somebody, you're not going to stop and turn around and talk to them and plead with them and then keep running. Because that's what happens in this movie.
Leave me alone! All these years, you've been seeing the sights of the world. I've been stuck in that place. I got out though, and I've been watching you.
And I get that they're doing that for exposition, but they should have done it in a different way because it was kind of stupid. Now, as far as the kills in this movie, you know, every slasher is known for their weapon, and the weapon in this one is like, I think it's like a little garden hook. It's one of those garden forks. I'm not a professional gardener, guys, okay? But yeah, it looks like a garden fork or something like that. But it's a pretty effective weapon. There's some nice kills in this movie. The one that really stands out the most is the one for Allison because it's just really bloody and graphic. But yeah, I mean, as far as kills go, they're pretty serviceable. You know, there's no Tom Savini work here, people, but it's still decent. And also, I do like the department store setting. Kind of reminded me of what they did in Dawn of the Dead, actually. The original Dawn of the Dead, how they're in that mall. This is kind of like that, you know, really the last act of the movie happens in this department store setting. So that's kind of nice because, you know, the killer could be anywhere, and it was a good place for the final act to unfold. And before I get into the cons, there's also a boner costume in this, which is hilarious. That's got to go in the pros, right? Now, for the cons of this movie, like a lot of 80s slashers, you do have some subpar acting. You do have some throwaway characters in this. There's a party scene in the middle that feels kind of wasted. You know, they spend most of that party scene with this. It's got one of those bands where the drummer is the singer, and I always find that interesting. I don't know why I said that. You have a lot of these characters just trying to hook up, and there's no real payoff in these scenes. So really that whole segment of the movie was kind of a waste. But overall, guys, I like the polished look of this movie. It does have like that A slasher vibe to it. I like sorority slashers, so this one's definitely one that I'm going to be watching again. I've watched it twice already, had a really good time with it. Like I said, it checks all the boxes of a good slasher. I got the Arrow release. If you want to get that, I'll put an Amazon affiliate link below so you can purchase it, and it also supports the channel. So anyway, thank you. So in the end, guys, I'm going to give The Initiation a purchase worthy. A lot of fun with this movie. If you've seen The Initiation, which you probably have if you've stayed for the spoilers, then let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays, we do Free for All Fridays. I actually posted about The Initiation. Like, it's one of those movies that doesn't have a remake. And I posted, what's a slasher movie that you wish did have a remake? And, you know, there's a lot of good conversation going there. Also, if you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.